How's it going, guys? Thanks again for tuning in my channel. Today I'm reviewing a brand new release from GVM. This is the GVM PR150R RGB/CCT light. So stay tuned, don't go anywhere, I'll be right back. And a quick disclaimer, GVM sent me this light for me to review. I don't get paid to say anything here. This video is not sponsored by GVM, and all my words and opinions, they are my own. Alright, so the first thing we're going to talk about here is fan noise, right? This is exactly why I'm at my studio here, which, by the way, we don't open on a Monday, so I'm actually doing this review here because if you do this for a living, sooner or later you're going to encounter the situation here. As you can hear, check out the background noise of this place here. It's a very active place. This is a shopping mall. FedEx, UPS, transiting here, you know, people walking around, people trying to come in here, whatever. So no matter what microphone you use, I don't care if it is a shotgun or any kind of condenser microphone, this is actually unavoidable here. And there are some commercials that you guys gonna have to deal with the environment and making a recording somehow with the commercial or an interview set. So there you go. This light comes with the fan and its RPM is on the same consistent RPM, whatever RPM that is. There's no quieting down or ramping it up. You cannot modify the RPM on this fan. And the noise, the frequency that this emits here is actually easy to hide. So this particular fan noise is not on a quiet side or it's not on a loud side either. It's somewhere in between, and this is the wrong place for the light to be. So when you place the light over here as a key light, for example, about 4, 5, 6 feet away behind the softbox, chances are you're not going to have a problem. And speaking of softbox and all, this is actually a kit from GVM. And this particular light here, to my surprise, at least for the kit, it does not come with the case, one of the usual GVM cases. Maybe it comes with the case if you buy the light itself. I'm not entirely sure, but it looks like it does not come with the case. So in the package, as a kit, everything comes with their own separate box. The light is separated from the stand and all. This entire light's construction is made of 100% plastic except the yoke. The yoke is aluminum, and also, of course, the part that mounts on the stand here. It has a CRI of 97 and a TLCI of 96. It ranges from 2700 degrees Kelvin to 7500 degrees Kelvin. Now this is a bicolor light, so when I actually change the color temperature from 2700 degrees Kelvin to 7500 degrees Kelvin, I usually prefer when its software keeps the intensity the same so it doesn't throw your exposure. So if you actually warm it up or cool it down, the exposure barely changes, or even better, it does not change. Now the cool thing about this particular light here, where the 5600 degrees Kelvin sits right in the middle sort of thing, you're going to have the brightest side of this light exactly at 5600 degrees Kelvin because both LEDs, they come together. And again, this is a very cool light to the very warm light, so you actually have something on your favor right here. So when you actually use this light at 5600 degrees Kelvin, you're going to have the maximum output from this light. This light does not come with a reflector, but you probably have one reflector either from GVM or any other brand. It doesn't matter, they all fit here because of bonus mount. But if you actually put a reflector here, I did not measure this, but they claim that it is a 30,000 lux at 1 meter away when you actually put a hyper reflector. That's how I think that's how they call it. But with the softbox here, of course, the light is going to be softer. It requires more power depending on the distance that you actually light on the subject as a key light. And also, they also claim that this light has 5440 lux at 1 meter away without a reflector. I'm assuming is at the full 5600 degrees Kelvin, in which is the strongest beam of this light. Now the price of this light here, for being a 150 watt light, plus it's got RGB, plus the light itself, the tripod, the softbox, the power supply and all, I think the price is pretty decent, and they always throw some coupons there. So every time you buy this light, there's always going to be a little coupon there on the bottom, which makes this light less. The back of this light is very simplistic. You find the power switch on and off, nothing special here. The intensity, which controls the brightness from 0% to 1% increments all the way to 100%, and it does that very quickly. And also on the other side, the color temperature from 2700 degrees Kelvin to 7500 degrees Kelvin, and everything changes very quickly if you need it to be. Keep in mind that when you're actually using the app mode, none of these buttons on the back work because your application is going to control this light. The same exact thing for the slave. If you have another light like this set to slave, the other one, the rear buttons on the back here, is not going to respond. Only the light that's connected to the master is going to respond. And one thing that I like about lights like this made of plastic is because they're very lightweight, especially when you actually bring this thing on the field. I don't want to be hiking with a lot of weight on my bag, right? Even though this light is limited to the 30 volt 5 amp power supply that comes included with this actual light, and there are no V-mount slots, there's no way to mount any batteries here, but that's not a problem because this is why they make widely available on Amazon and everywhere else power supplies. This is a lithium ion 300 watt silent generator. It has a fan here, but it doesn't come on all the time. But you know, regardless, you can actually take this light outdoors with a portable outlet, which by the way, pure sine wave is very important. Don't buy cheap generators because you're gonna be actually damaging these lights or your cell phone or Blu-ray, anything AC that you wanna connect to these things here, okay? So whatever power bank that has an AC outlet you wanna buy, make sure you're actually buying a pure sine wave power generator. So here's the actual lantern-shaped softbox that comes included with this kit, and to actually set up and collapse is very easy because it has a little hook in the center there. You can easily see from here. So what you want to do is to place this on the floor or a steady surface. You press it down, you're going to see the hook kind of detaching from the actual main thing there, and the softbox is out. You don't necessarily have to remove the fabric. Once you actually disassemble this, you can actually keep everything here. Just make sure the velcros are open, and then you can actually fold it very nicely and then close the velcro back. You can leave it here. One thing that's very important, that you actually align the actual rods here with the actual sewing lines right there. So you can easily do this by moving them like this here. So make sure they're like this, and you're all good to go. I have a meeting table right behind the screen here. The softbox is actually great to light, you know, 4, 5, 6 people at the same time. You put this thing on the boom, and everything else is going to be lit 360 degrees. So the first thing that I do upon unpacking a light is checking the fan noise. That's the first thing, and also the brightness, and also how strong the yoke is, and also this particular area here. I was very happy to find out that they actually make the yoke here very strong to actually support heavier modifiers. And again, let's not forget this is only 150 watt light, but if you need a heavy thing in the front here, this is not going to droop. This is going to stay here as soon as you lock it. Doesn't matter if you even install a Fresnel lens, whatever you want to use here, this is going to stay. So this is actually very strong. And as you can see, it's not going anywhere. Now before you plan to take this light outdoors, regardless if you're actually plugging this through the outlet or through a power bank, there is no front glass protective element in front of this LED here. So especially summertime, bugs will definitely be crawling around here, which is going to be possibly damaging the LED and also causing severe stains here. Before you do that, just to keep that in mind. Now if you want to use a Fresnel light here, you can certainly help to protect the LED because the Fresnel itself has a glass. And again, the way they made this yoke here, the Fresnel lens is not going to droop or sag. It's going to stay here. It doesn't matter if you put something this big right here. It's going to stay. To power this light is very secure. It features a ring that you can actually screw in, and also a 3-prong similar to an XLR 3-pin kind of thing going on. So you actually plug it in the back here. There's no way to do this wrong. And then you finish screwing here, and the cable is not going anywhere. If this is the first light that you buy, or if you don't have a lot of gear, this also comes with a stand here, which is pretty cool, but they're pretty generic. There's nothing special to look at it. I do like the fact that they actually put a powder coating finish here. It feels good to the touch. Everything is made of aluminum except the main important part, which is here. So this whole thing here is made of plastic, including the knobs. So you don't want to over tighten this. You want to take it easy. And these stands, they're not super tall. They're just, you know, tall enough to actually set up the light in a normal situation. One thing that I do like about the stand here, because even though I'm sitting, it's very easy to open, and look how wide this thing is. So the wider, the more stable this stand is. Something that you don't want to do, which I see many people doing, is why would people do this here? There's no stability whatsoever. The slightest, you know, touch here, this thing is gonna go on the floor, right? Use this stand at least this way here, at least this way here. Now to collapse the stand here, I'm actually sitting down, and it's still very easy to use. Don't forget this is actually a reverse design, so this is the incorrect way to fold the stand. So you want to do the opposite way. Just hold with the 2 arms right here, lock one leg on your knees. Look how easy that is. To open it up, do that. To close it down, super easy. Now to control the light using the app, this is nothing new. This has been around for a long time. I'm sure you guys know how to use it. Just a reminder, just in case you don't see the light registering on the application, it's because you have to come here on the mode button and press it until you see the actual app little icon, and then wait a few seconds, and then the light's gonna show up here. Then you connect, and then the light works immediately. Nothing crashes, nothing freezes. Now to show you guys really quick, in 30 seconds you can change your channels from here, brightness from 0 to 1% increments all the way to 100%, color temperature from 2700 to 7500 degrees Kelvin, and the strongest point of this light is around exactly 5600 degrees Kelvin, which is a great thing. And one thing that I like a lot, I forgot to mention, every time I have a light at 1%, it looks like this here, especially if you're doing time-lapse, or if you need high ISO shooting or long exposures or whatever, you have this tiny little kiss of light here. that actually provides very minimal intensity, especially for being a 150 watt light here. So I love when I see a light that can do this for me, because sometimes the 1% looks like this here, which is pretty much useless with the scenarios that I described before, so which is great. You can actually power off this light here, power it on. Here's your HSI, which is self-explanatory. You can choose all your lights and colors and everything. The scene, you can actually have the lightning, the cop car, all that good stuff here. And the My Scenes, you can actually record a particular settings here on the HSI or CCT, and then you press the diskette button here. It's gonna remember the particular setting that you just did. So next I'm going to show you how this light as a kit works with the included lantern softbox, which is much better than just having the light shining on the background there. That's not going to show you guys enough, right? So I'm going to be showing you guys this light in front of a subject in a lighting position here as a key light with the proper distance and all. Okay, so here's the first scenario in a real world situation utilizing the included softbox that comes with the PR150R. Right now the intensity is only at 14%. The camera is set to the widest aperture f1.8 ISO 800 and 1/60th of a second. The camera is shooting at 30 frames per second, and this is what you get with that result. Right now I'm using the Canon R3 with a color profile is called Cinetech, so the colors is whatever the profile likes. I actually like the profile. And don't worry about this light right here, this is not doing anything. This light is having no effect whatsoever. This is just the modern lights for my strobes, and all these other lights here, they're off. So focus only on the softbox right here. The only light that I'm using here is the background light and also the softbox here. Now let's crank this up to 100% and see what we get. So let's lower the ISO all the way down to 100 ISO. And shoot it slightly faster, 1/80th. That should give you a beautiful exposure right here. As you can see, 1/80th of a second, f1.8, ISO 100. The other possibility, you want to go back to ISO 800, for example. You can close the aperture, and with the light at that distance at 100%, you're getting f5.6 at ISO 800 at 1/80th of a second. The possibilities here, there are many, of course. I'll just show you a few examples here, what you're getting with this light's power. Or you can go back here and shoot faster if you like. There you go. Now you're having 1/640th of a second at f1.8 ISO 800. And these are the many examples that you can actually get with this light set to this power with the softbox or light at this distance right here. Now the distance that you're going to be placing this light from the subject, this is what determines what kind of power you need. If you need a 600 watt light or 1200 watt light. With the light close here, every light or any light can be actually bright enough. Now in cinematography, there are two primary things that you actually really should know and worry about. First one is shadow definition, and also the second one is knowing about the inverse square law. That particular law applies to everything, to video, audio, photography, even every single thing that you do day by day. The inverse square law applies to everything. So here's the question: how would you compare the brightness with this light and the other light? Again, depends on what you're doing with this light. So if you have the light here, any 60 watt light will do, any light will do. Now when you actually have to back out the light to shoot a larger group of people, for example, this studio here has 3,200 square feet. If I need to place this light all the way back on the wall there to shoot a large group, 150 watts is not going to cut it, of course, right? If you're not familiar with the inverse square law, make sure you actually search for that on YouTube. It's very easy to understand. It seems complicated, but once you get the hang of it, it's not. I don't even think about it, but I apply the laws every time I'm shooting something here. It applies to both things, video and audio. So with the inverse square law, to explain the quickest way possible here, the closer you place the light, the more intense it is, but less coverage. That's why you actually have the nice glowy part on the face here, and the other side of the face gets dark really fast, the light fall out. Once you place the light slightly this way here, the intensity is going to drop, but the coverage is going to be wider because you lose about 75%. I'll show you here. Let's say that you have this light right here, right? You position the light this way, right here, and this right now is 100% of the light. As soon as you back out a foot or so, believe it or not, you lost 75% of the light's intensity or brightness just by doing this here. Once you place the softbox with the light all the way back on the wall there, several meters away, like 10 meters or 30 feet away, it's not going to make a difference if you move the light 5 feet this way, 3 feet back there. It's not going to matter because the light fallout was so drastic that it doesn't matter. Now when you actually place the light close here, if you do a little bit of movement, you already change the whole look of the thing here. The same thing for audio. If you're speaking on a microphone this close, If you drop the microphone half an inch, you already lost 6 decibels in sound. And when you place the microphone all the way back here, if you do this with the mic, it doesn't really matter because you get the point. So search for the inverse square law. You're going to learn so much in cinematography, how to properly light anything that you want or to get any look that you want with lighting. So as for the last test here, I'm going to place this light about 20 feet away and see what 150 watt gives us. All right, I didn't change anything here other than placing the light 20 feet away from the subject, and I'm going to do some corrections there. Let's see what we get. Now, given the distance the light is from the subject, if you don't mind shooting everything at f1.4 or 1.8, it's not a problem. What if you need to shoot f5.6 or f8? This is when you actually need a 600 watt light, a 1200 watt light, especially bouncing a light off the wall to come back to the subject. This is when you need a massive amount of power. So again, every light, a little tube light or any light that you actually place the light close to the subject, every light is actually bright enough. At f4, you get this look here at ISO 800. Of course, you can actually blow it up all the way to 2000 or 3200 if you don't mind about the noise. I mean, the R3 shoots pretty clean, but I don't like shooting anything at this kind of ISO here. I would go maximum 1600. One critical thing regarding lighting, for example, if you actually have the light as close as possible to the subject, everything is properly lit, as you can see here, everything is fine. But what if the subject decides to do this here? Or do something goofy like this, right? How many times have you guys had a situation that the hands, they're overexposed at least by a stop and a half to a whole 2 stops, because look how close the actual hand is from the light. This is exactly why this happens. There are 2 ways to actually fix this. Actually, there's more than 2 ways, but here you can actually have a screen or a net to actually block the light from the bottom, which is going to correct the overexposure from the hand because of the proximity of this light here, while this light is still in the same place. So the top of the softbox is going to be falling on her exactly how you see on the camera right now. So again, to correct the problem here, just put a net here. Another way to fix this, you simply back away the lights. Once she does this again, everything is properly exposed, and also even the background is going to be the same exposure because again, the light fall out depending on the distance. It's going to be so great that if you move the light 5 feet towards her or 5 feet away, it's not going to matter. The critical part again is when you actually have the light this way here, or whatever distance here, you set your meter on the camera, good, the proper exposure right here. If you move the light a foot away, or foot and a half away, you already lost 75% of the light's intensity by just moving like another foot away here. Once you place the light 10, 15 feet away, whatever you do is not going to make a difference. So to recap everything here, when you have the light this close, that's when you have the artistic look with the well-defined lights right here, and the fallout is actually very soft because the light is actually very close to the face. As soon as you place the light away, the shadows become more prominent, stronger, and also the light becomes more even. So for example, let's say that you want to shoot a large corporate group of people here, like 15 people, right? The last thing you want to do is to place a bunch of lights like this here with a group of people, like 15, 20 people, even 5 people. So the last person on the left and right, they're going to be always brighter than the people in the middle here. So again, you have to back out the light. You crank it up for the proper exposure here, but when you actually have the lights far away, the background and the foreground is going to be also evenly lit. This is actually crucial if you're actually shooting on a white background and the only light that you brought was a single light. So in this case, place the subject as close as possible to the background, and you're going to have the biggest light possible to avoid shadows in the background. That's again to light a white screen without the actual proper light to independently light the white background, right? So this is another thing that you can actually do. And all this stuff involves the inverse square law. So once you know the inverse square law for video and sound, you're going to be escalating your production to a whole other level. And that's the end of my review. If you like what you saw, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you have any questions, please drop them down in the comment section. I respond to everything that I see there. So once again, thanks again for being here, and I see you next time. But don't forget, this is actually a reverse design, so open it the other way. But as you can see,